experiment. You know, if you're a Christian, you would know that God created everything on earth, and He created massive diversities. You know, He's the ultimate creator. You know, it wasn't just content with creating just one type thing. You know, He created us in many colors. See?
Yes, very many colors.
Very many colors. Yeah. He created the fauna. You know, He created the seas different. He created so many things. So that should tell you that if you describe yourself as a creative artist, you should explore. You should experiment. Yes. It's not everything that would then turn out the way you want, but you know, your diversity, the body of work that you've created would be more exciting and to just stick to one thing. So over the years, I think I've evolved. I'm not so satisfied with doing one thing or a type of thing for so long, you know. And at some point, I wasn't sure what my style was. You know, I wasn't sure what my style was. And then I realized that I didn't have to be sure what my style was. You know, my style isn't anything I could affect, you know, deliberately. I mean, my style would be maybe fashioned, you know, by my experiences, you know, by my background, you know, by the choices that I make. You know, so style is more an internal thing than, you know, it would show in everything you do. So it just cuts across every thing that you do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, when you start doing things in a certain way, you probably deployed a certain technique, you know, and then you're confronting a certain subject. That's not your style. You know, you're deploying the technique. However, your style will be there somewhere. You know, you're not putting it there deliberately. It's just emanating off of that. And it would happen in every other, you know, every other thing that you explore, you know. So when I realized that, I just knew that, look, I didn't have to put a limit to what I'm doing, you know. I could just go on and then challenge myself all the time, you know. So I do have a style. What you see with the texture and all that's just the result of one of my experimentations. You know, I've done a lot of
texture.
Yes, I've done a lot of, you know, textural different materials.
Is that something that you coined? Is that your?
Well, yeah, I coined Cretextura because I never saw it anywhere else.
I knew it. I knew it. You were looking, what is this? I mean, I had an impression it was like some kind of gesso for texture, and we couldn't find it. We're like, we'll just leave it to the kids.
I couldn't, you know, Cretextura is a, you know, because you know, at some point I was describing it as a sculpted canvas. But, you know, when you say sculpted canvas, it actually paints, you know, an image of a bas relief, you know, type of thing, you know, bas relief. Bas relief, you know. Yeah. So when you say sculpted canvas, that's the kind of image that would come to my mind, you know. So I felt it wasn't appropriate enough for the material. So over the years, I at some point called it Cretextured canvas. And that wasn't addressing the material. It was only addressing, you know, the act. You know? So I realized that, well, I needed to give it a name, and then I came up with the Cretextura, which is the material, you know. So it's just one of those things. I don't see it as my style.
So yeah, I hear you. So it's part of your toolbox.
Part of it.
So, I was there. We have some comments in the chat here. Your pieces are so unique. That you have an incredible legacy and a lot of fans in the audience, which is nice. I'm wondering, now that you've explained it that way, because there's an incredible sense of texture in your pieces, but of course, until you see them in person, you can't tell. Is there a lot of actual like texture on the canvases, or is that like a painted technique?
No, my work isn't something that you just go to the studio and then you start and then you do until you finish. There are stages to it. There's a process.
Right.
It's actually a lengthy process. So I don't often start one work at a time. I could have a group of works that I start at the same time in order to to be able to manage time. So of course you do the drawings, you get the idea, you do your sketches, and then you do the drawings, and then you lay the texture on, and then you play around with the colors. You try to determine what the end result would look like, and then you make initial washes and stuff like that, and afterwards you start fine-tuning until you eventually come to what you desire. So however, more often than not, the idea I start with isn't the idea I end up. I mean, the idea of how I want it to look isn't exactly what pans out eventually. See, I allow room for that. Because I mean, I think spontaneity is what actually makes an artwork interesting, exciting. So you could want to achieve this exact thing, but then as you walk, you notice a more interesting window. You explore it, and
see where it goes. Yeah.
See where it goes.
We have a question that came from the audience. It says, when did you switch from using more oils to using acrylic paints, and why?
I think a couple of years ago, maybe like 15 years ago, thereabout.
Just a couple.
Sorry?
Just a couple.
Yeah.
50.
I was painting largely chalk pastel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was painting largely chalk pastel. I was painting oil as well at that time, and they were quite successful, but like I said, I haven't done that. I wasn't getting the kind of excitement that I wanted, because, it's a two-way thing. The artist has to be happy with what he's doing, not just the buying clients.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So I decided to start trying out other textures, and eventually of course, there was one of my friend and agent who saw something I did, which was it was one of the experiments I was doing. I didn't see the use for it at that point. And the guy said, "Why don't you explore this a little more? I mean, perhaps you could get something out of this, And I thought, okay, let's look at this. And then I dug in a little bit more, and then the forms started coming out. Forms started coming out, and over the years I started refining it. But I never really left oil. From time to time, I paint oil. It's amazing. Sometimes I might just paint oil for 6 months, not do anything on Quitextura, So I do oil, but I basically just left pastel, I still have my pastel board and all that. From time to time, I look at it. I get some urge to go and do some things, but then, I mean, I don't know. It's not as challenging as Quitextura, So I do some works on I do some sculptural pieces.
Wow.
But I don't often show them. You know, people come to my studio and find them. So.
Oh, do you have something you can show us?
Ah.
That's within reach. People love showing.